Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest issue of Comic Book Gentlemen, the podcast where we use our decades of being giant nerds to discuss the most divisive issues in the fandom. I'm your host, Greg, joined by my constant co-host, Dave. How's it going, Dave?
Nerdy?
Nerdy, as always. If you weren't nerdy, I'd be more concerned, you know?
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, you getting ready? I heard you're getting ready for Calgary Expo. You excited?
I am very excited.
What's your highlights?
Highlights, obviously, meet Frank Miller.
That's awesome.
Just to get a chance to meet him. We're going to meet Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future. And there's a couple artists that I'd love to see down there. Clayman being one of them. Mm-hmm. That I'll probably grab a piece of original art from. And yeah, we always have a good time.
Yeah, and another person going to Calgary Expo is Charlie Cox, which goes really well into today's episode, where we are going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again, our thoughts on it, what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we're excited for season 2. So let's start off way at the beginning, though,
way back,
which is Netflix Daredevil. What's your opinion on the 3 seasons of Netflix Daredevil? What did you like, what you didn't like? Go ahead.
I would say I loved the first 2 seasons.
Yep.
Thought they were excellent. And I loved the fact that it wasn't just from, especially in the first season, spoilers, that it wasn't just like the red suit.
Yep.
Right now, like right into it. Like it was kind of a slow burn and a nice build up.
Yep.
But I love the first 2 seasons. Defenders, I was a little less
hyped on,
or even though it had some great moments, it wasn't. It didn't reach the same level that I felt. It was still good. I still enjoyed it. I just didn't feel like it reached up to that level. But the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, hands down, probably the best episodic Marvel show that they've done.
Well, it's funny. I mean, going back to season 1, that was such a landmark show because it really showcased like elevating Marvel into like more adult themes. Yeah. And then, it was just that good, and everybody and suddenly everybody wanted to make a Daredevil show, type of thing. So and it really revolutionized Marvel TV. I actually didn't watch season 3 until Born Again was coming out. And then I was like, oh wait, I guess I should actually go watch season 3.
This,
yeah, I agree. Season 1's really good. I mean, I haven't watched it since it first came out, so that was like 10 years ago at this point. But from what I remember, it was just really gritty, really dark. You had, Matt versus Kingpin both coming into their own and taking each other out. Season 2, I definitely really enjoyed the Punisher storyline.
Yes.
Elektra, not so much. It's not my favorite storyline, but the Punisher was so good that it elevated that whole season.
Daredevil dynamic, even in the comics, is so good. Just because they do the same shit.
Yeah, it's just different.
But there's a different end result.
Yeah. Which even comes up in Born Again, which is really funny.
Exactly.
And then season 3, so like I said, I didn't watch it until right before Born Again. Yeah. It was interesting going back because, you get you kind of get that Netflix feel of it all. You kind of have the original creator team. I think what I enjoyed about it was that escalation of, it's not just New York. Now you have the whole FBI working for Fisk and like getting, again, spoilers alert for Daredevil season 3, which came out years ago. But like you had the whole FBI, and then again it was that escalation of like each of them try to go to the next level, and like what does that mean? And then again you also had Matt not wanting to be Daredevil. But
I thought the casting was great. Mm-hmm. The first season's story was great because it just centered in on the two main characters. The second season they added a few more. Could they have done it? I think they could have done it without Elektra. Mm-hmm. Or the Punisher. I'm glad they did do the Punisher because I just thought John was amazing.
Oh yeah,
but. When by the time it got to the third, it almost kind of like, to me, it kind of like felt like it lost the Daredevil feel because now you had 3 other characters who also had their own show.
Yep.
And there was a different feel with all those shows, so it was like just wasn't the same level of kind of dark, gritty, like what you saw out of like Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Yeah.
Like it was dark and gritty.
Yep.
And then it got a little lighter.
Well, I think that's the hard part is like the more characters you add and the more storylines you add, it kind of muddies the waters a little bit of like where's the focus, right? And I think the other annoying part about the original Daredevil is like season 1 you never see Daredevil until the final episode, then he puts on the costume. Yeah. Season 2 he finally puts on the costume, but then he's dealing with like real life stuff and he's dealing with magical ninjas and stuff like that. So there's not really any superheroing. And then season 3 he's again, I don't want to do the costume, and it's like just put on the damn costume, Matt. Like just be Daredevil. Like that's one of the tropes.
Even our man Wolverine.
Yeah.
eventually put the costume
exactly,
on.
Right? Like this is a trope, and this is beyond Daredevil, but it's like I'm starting to get kind of tired of like, oh, I don't want to be a superhero anymore, or type of thing. It's like, just be the superhero, put on the damn costume, and have a good time.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's my issue with season 3 a little bit, was it started to feel a little bit repetitive. It's like, okay, we've already seen Matt versus Fisk before, like, and so like, how are you going to change it? Obviously, you add in Bullseye, you add in Vanessa as another thing, thing. So yeah, I thought season 3 wasn't that bad. It just like, okay, where are we going? So that's where we kind of end in season 3. Is Fisk is not in jail. He's no, he's in jail. He's in jail. And then you have Vanessa kind of takes over. She's like full villain, which is #girlboss, type of thing. So she's now taking over, which is really interesting character point. And you had Foggy, him and Karen kind of like, okay, we're safe. Let's go do our own thing outside of Daryl. So that's where you kind of end of season 3. So now we get into Born Again. So this is Disney going, hey, we're going to take the character back. We're going to incorporate him more into the MCU, and we're going to try to make our own show. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about Disney kind of taking over the show?
It was a question of, I mean, the first thing they said, but it was still a worry, was that we're going to keep the tone the same. Like, it's going to be Daredevil Netflix just on Disney. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm happy about that, but I was still worried.
Yeah.
I know Disney.
Exactly,
I
right?
know how Disney likes to Disneyfy shit. So I was happy they addressed it right from the beginning, so it wasn't like hey, we're doing a Daredevil thing, and then people got outraged, and then they were like, oh, no, we're going to do the same. They said it right from the beginning.
Yep.
They said, like, it's going to be same tone. So I was happy that like, optimistic in the sense of like, okay, they've said it, they've addressed it, hopefully that's what it is. I was still a little worried that it was not going to be the same.
And then you started hearing, they've been very open about this, that things were not going well. I mean, to be fair, you did have him show up, before we get to that, we did have him show up in Spider-Man, which I popped off for in No Way Home. I lost my mind. Nobody else in the theater did. I was the only one that lost my mind. And then you had him in She-Hulk, which was, it's a whole different conversation about She-Hulk. But then you also had...
not to mention with the worst costume that he's ever worn.
Oh, yeah, the yellow one was so bad. So bad. And then you had Fisk in Echo, which is interesting, which I want to ask you, because you actually watched Echo. Yeah. I didn't watch Echo, and it definitely felt like I was missing some parts when I was watching Born Again. So, like, what happened with Fisk and Echo? What was the big things?
So it kind of came off of
Hawkeye,
where Echo had shot him.
Yeah.
And... he's dead, he's not dead, we don't know. And then Echo's basically, she's left and she's kind of doing her own thing. And then Fisk basically gets better and decides that because she's now taking a stance against him in the sense of like disrupting his organization, that he's going to go and deal with her.
Okay.
So, it was I mean, D'Onofrio was great.
Oh, yeah.
And so was I apologize, can't remember the actress's name for Echo. She's phenomenal athlete. Like some of the stunts and everything in that were really good. It just wasn't like it was like one of those shows. Like, okay, it was okay to pass the time. Like, it wasn't anything shattering or anything that kind of really brought anything to light. It was just a show.
It was just an okay Disney Plus show. Yeah. So then we started hearing, they were very open about this, of they had a completely different direction they were going to do Daredevil Born Again, that they completely scrapped. According to Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, what they actually took it over, and were very much like, we're bringing back Karen Page, we're bringing back Foggy, we're bringing back the old crew, and we're kind of revamping it into the MCU, but we're really trying to bring the Netflix with us.
Yeah, that
energy. What was your, like, did you have a lot of concerns when you hear this, or were you like, heck yeah, you should have been doing that from the start?
Well, that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Like, when they first announced it, before, any of the troubled waters that seem to always be surrounding anything that Marvel Studios does, it was like, okay, that's what you're going to do, and then hearing... like, oh, this has to happen, and people are, making claims here, and they're trying to fix it here, and I was like, oh, please, no.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. Like,
here we go again.
You have a perfect franchise that has done so well on Netflix with a perfect recipe, with a perfect cast, and you're screwing it up.
Yeah.
So I was again, coming into it, until I saw the first trailer, I was a little worried.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get into the actual show. Full spoilers. I mean, obviously, if you listen to this podcast, you should hopefully have already seen it. But so yeah, would you rank it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it worth watching? What's your overall thing?
Okay, so there's kind of two answers here. Yep. Like if you're just gonna judge it on the first 9 episodes, because there's another 9 coming. The story's not done yet, so
no.
So there's that aspect. I know they called it Born Again. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's not Frank Miller's Born Again.
Not even close.
Which kind of disappointed me a little bit, because I was really hoping that they would go down that line. Mm-hmm. But what they did do, I can't say was I can say it wasn't disappointing. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I thought, like, when it first kicked off and I watched the first episode, I was like, I turned it off and I was like, what just happened? Because it was like so action packed, crazy crap happening. One of the best fight scenes I've seen between Bullseye and Daredevil. It was great, but there were aspects of it that I didn't like.
Speaking of just the first episode, the fight scene I thought was just okay. Him swinging, the CGI of him swinging through the city was so bad. Like I thought it was really rough. There's a reason why they didn't show that in Netflix, because they're like, we can't make this look good.
Although I thought him coming, like when Bullseye come out onto the rooftop, him kind of swinging up and landing,
I guess
looked good. But yes, no, I'll agree.
It was a little bit rough.
Was a little, woo.
Yeah, but no, I thought it was a very fast paced, chaotic episode type of thing. I thought it was really interesting that, for me, they made such a big deal about we're bringing back Karen, we're bringing back Foggy, but in the first episode of Born Again, they kill Foggy, and then Karen's like, I'm out. I was just
I was so disappointed with that. And that was the part that I was disappointed. I was like, all the old crew's back, you can see them, they're involved, there's some crazy stuff going on, but then to have Foggy die, Karen Page peace out. For all intents and purposes, the Bullseye storyline that they were building up and presenting. Oh yeah, no, he's just in jail now.
Well, his back's broken.
Yeah, it's just like.
Well,
I guess you didn't lie. You brought him back for 1 episode.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that's what I was surprised by, was like, why make such a big deal about saying we're going to bring back the old crew? And just, I mean, as you watch the show, you can kind of see, like, they kind of amalgamated the original idea of the season with the changes, and you can tell, like, I definitely agree that this season's a little bit rough, in the sense of, like, you can see there's like 2 shows fighting each other here, and like you couldn't tell which one was going to come out on top, and then by the end of it they kind of like they're going to go in a specific direction. But before we get there, and then of course you had Matt going, I'm no longer Daredevil, which I'm like, come on. Like,
apparently he really struggles with being Daredevil.
Yeah, which, I mean, he struggles with everything. But
he does.
So what?
Except picking up chicks.
He is the biggest womanizer.
Yeah, he is. He's the Mac Daddy of not having a relationship.
Hashtag mommy issues. Like,
big time.
Dude, he gets it. Yeah. So what are your thoughts if they set up this scenario of Matt's like, I'm no longer Daredevil, I almost killed Bullseye, Foggy's dead, I'm just going to go full lawyer mode. And then you have Fisk suddenly going, Vanessa's running the crime, I'm going to go full mayor mode. Like, what were your... That's essentially the premise of the season, and that's like where both characters are.
I was like... I guess that's where I started realizing, okay, this is not necessarily, it's only Born Again in title.
Yeah.
This is essentially the storyline, and I'm forgetting the miniseries that was most recently written for Daredevil.
Chip Zdarsky?
Yeah, Zdarsky's miniseries, where basically Fisk has a task force.
Yep.
And he's outlawed all of the superheroes.
Not Dark Reign. It was I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it like for me it was like this isn't Born Again.
No.
Like, I was looking forward to Born Again, where, you know, Fisk finds out that his arch nemesis of Daredevil is Matt Murdock, and he just starts systematically destroying his life. Like him. Just him. And this just took a complete turn.
Devil's Reign, isn't it?
Devil's Reign.
Yeah.
So I felt like, oh, okay, we're actually in a spin-off version of Devil's
well, even like as the show progresses, to me it even felt way more like the beginning of Chip Zdarsky's run.
Yeah.
Like the whole premise of Chip Zdarsky's run is like, oh, Daredevil accidentally kills a guy.
Yes.
So who's legally responsible? Who's who takes control of, or takes responsibility for that situation? Yeah. And that's kind of why they brought in White Tiger to be that stand-in for Daredevil accidentally killing a guy. Mm-hmm. And then you have the whole debate about what is the purpose of vigilantism? What is the purpose of being a superhero, right? So we'll get into that in a second. I did appreciate the idea of both Matt and Fisk wanting to start over, quote unquote, and like both of them coming into new realms, not new, but like different realms,
taking different approaches.
Exactly, right? Like Fisk especially, he can't just be straight up the mob boss of, if you don't do what I say, I'll just kill you. Yeah. He originally, when he gets into the mayoral role, it's about him learning like, okay, what's the systems? Do I want to follow those systems, or am I frustrated? Like the scene
how
where
do I use this?
How do I use the system to get what I still want going forward? Like the scene where he gets all the kids are singing to him.
Yes,
was one of the craziest scenes.
He's so annoyed.
Like he looked like he was about to murder all those children. You're just like, who let this guy in this classroom? Like it was crazy. And then you had Matt on the other side of like, I'm now just gonna fully trust in the legal system. I'm going to delve into it and give up being a vigilante, but then he gets pulled back with the whole White Tiger situation and all that fun stuff.
See, and what I did like about the flow of it was over 9 episodes, it seemed like it opened on a bang. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like, even though I disagreed with some of the choices they made, it opened up on a bang.
Yep.
And then it kind of settled.
Yep.
Right? And they went through a couple of still entertaining, because I think it was just because it was diving into that vigilantism, good or bad kind of, debate that was going on. But then, like, the way the series went, it was like, then it peaked again with Muse and was great. And then it settled again until the very last couple episodes, and then it peaked again. It was a nice flow of like, okay, we got you hooked on the first episode, then we're going to settle down a little bit, and then we're going to build up to Muse, and then we're going to settle down a bit, and then we're going to build up to that finale. Yeah. And so I thought the flow of it was really quite good, because I mean, a lot of these shows would be like, maybe they hook you at the beginning, and then you sit through it for 8-9 episodes, and it's like nothing until you get to the end. Mm-hmm. And I thought they did a good job of like keeping you engaged.
Which, speaking of that, is kind of like what reminds me of like Daredevil season 1 or Daredevil season 3, where it's like there was a slow build until that final couple episodes, and like then it's like holy shit. But like so apparently, from what I've read and heard, is that the whole courtroom drama around White Tiger and like what is the legality behind vigilantism was the original plan for the show. Of like, you were supposed to have Matt be the defender of White Tiger and Punisher and that type of stuff, and then eventually lead into him like defending potentially Bullseye and Kingpin, right? Yeah. And like, but then so it's all about, supposed to be like a courtroom drama, but with superheroes. What was your like? Hearing that, like, do you think they should have gone that route, or do you like what they ended up scrapping it and what they used was fine?
I mean, on first front, it's not Born Again. So
ignore the name.
So let's just chuck that out.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that they either they went with that or they stuck with kind of what they ended up doing. I'm hard pressed to like disagree with either one. I mean, I think the courtroom drama would have been a much slower burn. Yep. But I think what they did with this was it kept me engaged. Like every time, because they were dropping episodes weird too. It was like drop 2, drop 1, drop 2, drop 1. It was just weird. So, but every episode, like I felt like when they dropped the 2, maybe they dropped the 2 together because it got you hooked through the 2 episodes, but then usually the 1 episode that they dropped was like, something pretty important happened, so you were definitely hooked. Yeah, like I felt like the flow of it was good. Could they have done a little more, like if they wanted to do more of a courtroom drama style kind of thing? Yeah, they could have, but again, it's like they axed Karen Page. Yep, she was gone. Foggy's gone. Yep.
Punisher
was barely in it. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, you bring in the White Tiger, but nobody's got any attachment to that character. Like, especially if you're not a comic book fan, you don't even know who they are.
I didn't know who he was.
Yeah. so like it was a weird choice, but somehow I don't know what it is about the show. It kept me drawn.
Yeah. I think for me is like that courtroom drama could have potential. I think it makes more sense in a show like She-Hulk, where her being a superhero is kind of like the least interesting part about She-Hulk. Yeah. Whereas Daredevil, for me, the best part about Matt is when he's Daredevil. So the idea of doing an entire show of Daredevil, quote unquote, but him not being in the costume or being Daredevil until the end of the show would be like, or maybe he wasn't even going to be that till season 2. It would be crazy to me.
They could have laid more into what was always the friction point for him, which was, I'm a lawyer. I try to send the bad guys away. But when the bad guys don't get away because they get away with it, essentially they don't end up going to jail. I go find them as Daredevil.
or the system's so corrupted.
And punish them that way. But again, it was just like, it was, Matt Murdock featuring a little bit of Daredevil.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm glad they did incorporate more of the Netflix era stuff into it. I think that was a good call. I agree with you in White Tiger. I feel like it needed like half an episode more to really explain like, who is White Tiger and why do we care about him.
Maybe actually could have had him, maybe even just in one episode, like show up and help a situation where Matt Murdock's nearby and could like see what he was doing and like just to build him a little more story.
Like maybe when Bullseye was taking out Foggy Nelson and the whole thing, maybe White Tiger could have showed up and tried to help or something like that. Like just to showcase that like, hey, this other hero exists and like he's actually a hero. Because I was just like, who the hell's White Tiger? And I'm a comic book reader, and even I was like, I don't know who this guy is. So, but in the end, I do believe that his story was really important to showcase like Matt, you have to acknowledge that the system is completely corrupted. Yep. And the only way that, especially in this extravagant Marvel universe, the only way you can fight the system is through vigilantism, and like you have to go that extra step of putting on the mask and taking matters in your own hands. Because again, like he, the star witness for the case almost got murked by the police because they just were going to go, and Daredevil's the only reason that he saved, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I am glad that he put the suit on and was Daredevil before the 9th episode.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So I give him that much. Like, they did a little bit of the thing, but I mean, by about mid-season, he was back in the suit.
One question. What was your opinion on the bank heist episode? The St. Paddy's Day bank heist with Kamala Khan's dad or whatever.
There were elements that were kind of like the idea of it was kind of neat. It's like, okay, how can I, as a retired Daredevil, help without helping?
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I just don't think they
executed it
well at all.
It was almost...
and I was like, is the guy with the green mask Sin Eater? But he wasn't.
No.
But I was really hoping he was.
Yeah.
But no, it was an idea that could have been so much better if it had been played out.
Well, to me, that felt like the most filler episode out of all of them.
Yeah, it was so that you could connect it to Kamala Khan.
Which, yeah, exactly, right? Which seems super big of a stretch.
I was really worried the next episode was going to be him at dinner with Kamala Khan.
Yeah. Like, that'd be so funny. I mean, I'd be excited if Miss Marvel is in season 2. I think that'd be cool because it's like that conversation of being a hero, and she has such an innocent view of it, of being a young person, where he's so much jaded by being an old fighter, right? Anyways, so that kind of gives me another conversation of like the connections to the MCU. Mm-hmm. So in the original Netflix show, they would occasionally mention, oh yeah, that battle in New York, or like oh, the big green guy destroyed.
Name dropping all over the place.
They would try to lay hints of the connection, but then now you actually have it as like this is a full-on MCU show. I was expecting way more connection to the MCU.
I would say the only difference is before they'd be like, oh, that explosion that happened downtown, and you know what they were talking about. Whereas like in this, they just name drop the hell out of everybody. Like there were periodically throughout the whole thing, they were mentioning or talking about people and things that had happened.
Were they?
There were many drops, but it was basically like, oh yeah, this person, and then they just moved on. Like they didn't dwell on it. There weren't, and there was no connection to it. It was like they just random dialogue of like, oh yes, because Spider-Man, and then they just moved on.
See,
It was not. To your point, you're in New York. The amount of superheroes that are in New York, you could have had, like, even if it was just like on a TV and you're watching and you see Spider-Man swinging around fighting somebody, like you could have done a lot more to bring it together.
Yeah, and like the only one I even remember them even talking about is Miss Marvel. I don't remember them talking about. He doesn't even mention She-Hulk, which to me is crazy. You slept with the woman, and they're just like, let's never mention this again.
But to mention She-Hulk, you'd have to mention that he wore that other suit,
and they're not going to do that.
Very embarrassing.
So the biggest thing that drives me nuts about the MCU is they never talk about the Battle for New York. No. Which to me is like the most insane, pivotal. Like aliens attacked the city, almost destroyed it, and then they never talk about the blip. No. Like we've talked about 9/11 for the last 20 some years nonstop, but they would never talk about Battle of New York, or like even just Fisk saying, "Yeah, think about the Battle of New York. Almost all of us died." Like in his main office speech, anything, or like, "Oh yeah, we survived the blip. We're tough," like anything. But they refuse to acknowledge the two, like in my opinion, biggest things to acknowledge in the MCU.
But to be fair,
okay,
the blip happened in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
they don't talk about it ever. It's never in the
comics.
In the comics,
oh yeah,
like people were
fine.
erased. But and there's never any, like, you could have New York flattened, you could have all kinds of stuff happening, and nobody ever goes back and say, "Hey, remember that crazy shit that happened last year?" No, it's just like they continue on with their lives like nothing.
I understand in the comics because one, it's just one, like Spider-Man's been 30 for the last 50 years, and like New York gets like, you had the Skrull invasion, you had Null invasion, like so much stuff happens in the comics. I understand that, but in the MCU, you only have certain Avenger levels things that like really impact the entire universe, and it blows my mind they don't even give it a passing mention.
It's because it's the new 616.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I know. It's so stupid. Okay, moving on.
I agree with you. I think like when you do a big event. Impact like that, anything like even just a short little like 5-minute scene to address an aspect of what happened would be more than relevant. How about the fact that like Captain America's not around anymore?
Yep.
Iron Man's dead.
Yep.
Like there's so many things, and people are just like, well,
yeah, it happens. It happens. Typical Friday. It blows my mind. Anyways, so what was so you had basically like two main storylines, two main characters. You had Daredevil, and then you had Fisk.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite? Which one was Fisk? Fisk was so good, and like
not because Charlie Cox did a bad job.
No.
I think he did a great job. I think it was just some of the writing, like the bank episode, which wasn't great. Whereas Fisk's stuff was like really interesting because you could just see him like the restraint and the trying to kind of do good or try to do right, and then that slow fall back to who he is was done so well.
I thought it was so good, and I thought the characters around him were so good. Like I he's the most random nothing character, but I love Daniel Blake by Gandolfini, like showcasing again like the whole allegory of Fisk and Kingpin for what's happening in our current political system was insane. And then you have this character that represents those guys who are like, yeah, I'm with Fisk. He just says it like it is, and he just kills people. Like, no, that's awesome, dude. It's like, oh my gosh, and only Gandolfini could have played that character. And then you had B.B. Urich and like what's the role of media and reporting. Like I thought his whole and Sheila was a really interesting character.
There's a couple aspects that I like. Again, it's the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So they're always going to, the MCU is always going to, Kevin Feige's going to get his fingers in there and they're going to do something. But like what I like as a comic book fan, as a Daredevil fan, I was watching it and I was like, there were a couple things that struck me, and it was like the Born Again aspect was like title only, which I was disappointed about. I'll probably say that several more times.
Yeah, which is fair.
Yeah. I don't like the fact that Vanessa is up and around.
Okay.
Because she was always his weakness because she was in a coma. She was medically dealing with, medical issues. She was like, but he was the weakness that superheroes like Spider-Man and Daredevil would eventually, find out about and use to some degree against him to kind of stop him. Yeah. And the fact that she's just like equivalent to him, like a kind of like Queen Pin B.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I always thought killing Ben Urich, especially the actor, I really like the actor, was a mistake.
Yes, I agree.
Killing Foggy was a mistake. Not having Karen Page in like pretty much the entire series, other than the last 2 episodes and the first one, was a mistake. Like they just. And the reason being is these are integral characters to anybody who watches Daredevil or has read Daredevil or knows about Daredevil. These are the supporting cast around them. Yep. And it's like they just axed them all, elevated other ones to situations that just didn't make any sense, and then turn around and then they're like, oh, okay, here's this whole other new cast of people that you're just supposed to care about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care about his law partner.
Yeah,
I don't care about Cherry, the guy that's helping him as an ex-police officer. Like, I don't care about any of these guys. Yeah. I don't know who they are.
Like, why would you have Cherry and not Foggy? Like, maybe Foggy, like, is just in a wheelchair or something like that. Yeah. Like, he's like half in, half out type of thing. But, like, why do you need to have Cherry?
And then having North.
Yeah. I hated that. I hated that. Because I love North in the comics.
Like, I was like, at first it was like, okay, maybe it's because, like, he's on the task force because he got accused of something that he didn't actually do. And he's looking at it as like, hey, here's an opportunity for me to get my foot back in the door. But he showed, like, zero remorse.
Yes.
So he's not the same character.
No, not at all. Just name.
And then it just got to the, like, literally the last episode is like, okay, something's got to flip here for him. And it just didn't.
I mean,
it was purely like, yeah, we just took the name of the character and that was it.
I mean, there is a chance he survives. And maybe him seeing Daredevil protect him from Punisher is enough for him to go, something's up, I need to look. Maybe. Yeah. I doubt it. But it definitely felt like they were like, oh, we're really just going to take from the Chip Zdarsky run and do whatever we want.
Yeah, I would put that up there with one of the other rumors I heard people talking about, which was Foggy's not dead.
Oh, I heard that a lot too. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so why?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's hiding from Fisk, and for what reason?
Well, again, speaking of the Chip Zdarsky run, I mean, the big twist of that was Foggy was dead the whole time, and he was in hell. So maybe they're going to do that. Maybe they're going to... Which I hate when Daredevil does mystical stuff. Yeah. I think whenever he does street-level justice is the best. But when he does mystical... Whatever. So really quick on Vanessa, though. Yeah. I actually do... Because they started doing this in the Netflix show in season 3. Of, like, can Vanessa join Kingpin on his crime spree? I don't mind it, only because it feels more modern. Like, him having just a sick wife in the corner, that's his one weakness, feels very old school and very, like, almost like fridging your wife type of thing.
But they didn't even play it. Like, it didn't happen in the first season. Like, I could understand.
No, they did happen in the first season.
In the first season, she's like that, maybe in the second season part, and then she gets, so much better.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, and then it goes on. Now she's just like, and she never came off as... Like, I would put her, like, especially when Kingpin was trying to be like I'm the mayor, and I'm trying to do some somewhat good stuff. She was just like, I murder people. And that was, like, never that character.
Yes, sorry. I do agree. The good part about it is I agree she should be, like also evil. Yeah. I agree with you. She just flipped on a switch and was suddenly Queen Pin. And it was just like, wow, how'd you go from selling art to being better than Kingpin at Kingpin, like that. I agree that was a little bit rushed. I do agree though with them turning her into also a villain, like that's the part I enjoy. But yeah, so I just think how they did it was messy, like you're saying. I like her. She's good. I don't like the aspect. But again, it comes back to the run that they're really aping is Chip Zdarsky, because the big thing in Chip Zdarsky is Kingpin gets reconnected with Bloody Mary, and then they get married, and then he's like all that shit happens. So you can tell they were just like, oh, we want to do that as well. We'll just turn Vanessa into Bloody Mary without the powers,
which is exactly like the Born Again storyline.
Yeah. So again, you're right. They
should have just called it Devil's Reign.
Something like why call it Born Again if you're not going to do any? I mean, the same
because
thing
it's the most popular, like Daredevil. It's the most well-respected run in Daredevil.
Yeah, which it's silly that they do that. Which again, you got to pay these people more, man. Like I did notice in the credits, Brian Michael Bendis was actually really involved with the show, which I was surprised. I was very surprised by that. He was like executive producer. I guess he's not. He's just hanging out at DC, just taking a paycheck without actually writing anything. So, but again, like Chip Zdarsky should have gotten way more credit for that. Frank Miller should have got credit just for the fact it was called Born Again, type of thing. So,
like again, look. Regardless of the things I could pick at, I still enjoyed the show. Like I didn't like the supporting cast. Like Cherry was probably my favorite out of all of the supporting cast, but the rest of them were like, like his girlfriend. The new girlfriend. I was like, there's nothing. I got nothing.
She's just there for The Muse thing.
Yeah,
right?
the Muse thing I thought was done really well. It was really, really good. Especially the back and forth is like he's beating up Muse and kind of losing control as he's like pummeling him, and then it keeps cutting back to Kingpin kicking the crap out of that other guy.
Yeah.
That flip back and forth was like, I thought it was really, like, stylistically it was really, really kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I thought Muse looked fantastic.
The costume was great.
Yeah.
So my apologies.
And the guy that played him
Yeah.
played crazy so well.
Yeah, my apologies for harping on the bad stuff. Because I do agree, there was good parts of the show. It just, for me, felt a little bit messy. And I think that's a big takeaway, is like, it was a decent season. It was just a little bit messy, but I think there's a lot of hope for season 2. So,
yes.
So what's your opinion at the end of the show? So you have Matt and Kingpin both kind of accepting, we're just going to go back to who we truly are. We are who we are, let's go back to it. But then you have Matt taking the bullet for Kingpin as like the big whoa of the ultimatum. So what was your opinion on that?
Didn't surprise me.
No, it didn't surprise you?
It didn't surprise me because it's much like 99% of the conversations that he has with the Punisher, that's what Matt would do.
Yep.
He's like, no, Kingpin should stand trial and go to prison, and even though he already has, and that didn't work.
Exactly.
But that's what should happen. So that didn't surprise me that took place.
Yeah. I was surprised only because it's just like, Matt just annoys the shit out of me, and I get this is the point of the character, but like this happened in season 3 as well.
Oh, if you're not annoyed by him, you're not reading a Daredevil comic.
Fair enough. But it's just one of those things of like he constantly goes, I'm just gonna kill him, and then he takes the bullet for him or whatever, and it's just like, oh my god, Matt, you're such a dipshit sometimes.
Oh yeah, very much.
He's his own worst enemy. But then what annoys me is like the final episode takes place in like one night. So you had this black and white party where Vanessa's in red because I don't know, for whatever reason. Yeah. Then you have Bullseye escapes, which is completely Matt's fault. Fuck Matt. He's the reason all those people died is because he helped them escape.
Did he?
He didn't do it on purpose.
No. But did he? Because I watched it and I was afterwards like, okay, like knowing the character of Bullseye. Yeah. Why didn't he just smash his own face into the wall? Exactly. Like, he didn't need Matt to come there and smack him to break a tooth. He could have just done it to himself. But I still thought it was really cool when he spit the tooth into the guy's head. Oh, yeah. Like, his escape was... Like, the guy who plays Bullseye is crazy. Yeah. I hope he's a lot more in the second season. Yeah. But then, so then you have Bullseye tries to shoot Fisk. Matt takes the bullet from him. Matt then goes to the hospital. Meanwhile, Fisk does, I'm going to take over New York, cut the power, and all that stuff. All that happens within like what, like Matt, 24 hours,
like plus. Not even like less than that, because it's all one night. Like Matt gets shot, is knocked, almost killed, so he has to go to the hospital. He then immediately gets out of bed, goes, puts on the Daredevil costume, and goes fights the police. It's like, holy shit, what a turnaround! You know?
It was like I felt like you could see that like my disappointment started to erode with Punisher coming back in. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And there's still another season coming. So now Daredevil or Punisher back. Okay. I can get into this. Mm-hmm. And then when Karen Page shows up, and I was like, okay, maybe she's gonna come back. Now she's gonna be around for the next 9 episodes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what I mean by like, I can't really give it a full score till I know what the last... Yep. I mean, if they just had Karen Page come back for the last couple episodes and then you just don't see her again, I'm going to be like... What's the point? What was the point of that?
Yeah. I do enjoy what happened. Like, I think Fisk going full Fisk and like, I'm going to take over the city. I think him like corrupting Sheila and like her giving up him snapping that guy's head... Like in the most crushing it. But like again, the police just sitting there watching it to me is just so weird. Like I get the idea of like they quote unquote build it up throughout the season of him corrupting the police force, but not to that extent. Like to me that seemed a little bit extreme of like I'm just gonna snap this guy's head in half. Like what? I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, they're all corrupt and bad guys, whatever. But again, that's another scene where I look at and I go, there's North, just standing there watching this happen.
Oh no, he was the one getting Daredevil.
He looked a little perturbed.
No, that was a different guy. His name was Luke.
North, that's right.
North was the one that got grenaded in Daredevil's apartment. I love the fact that, like...
I did like that fight.
Yes, that fight was dope, because I love the fact that Daredevil the entire time is like, fuck you, Frank, and Frank's like, fuck you, Daredevil, but they're best friends just killing these people.
I liked, like, a couple times as they're fighting, and they're, you know, and you know, of course, Punisher's doing his method, and, you know, but there's a couple times where he goes to do his method of, okay, I'm just going to end this guy, and Daredevil's like, while fighting him, while arguing with Frank, while fighting this guy, then trying to stop Punisher from killing people, but also trying to work with him at the same time. It was just a really interesting dynamic. The whole fight scene was great.
I then also found it so funny that, I get the whole point of it is, like, the police love Frank, and they want to be the Frank.
I thought that was such a shot at
Proud
Boys.
Yeah, 100% is. It 100% is.
For co-oping the Punisher.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and his whole speech about, like, you idolize me? Like me? Mm-hmm. Like, you know who I am?
Yeah.
And then goes off and, you know, basically insults the hell out of him.
Which they've done in the comics before in Punisher. Yeah. He goes like, I fucking hate cops who love me. Like, he's like, I will murder you guys, no problem. And but what I found weird was he then just starts gutting police officers, but then they yell, use non-lethal ammo, like, we want him alive. And I'm like, he's murking your whole squad. Yeah. You guys made such a big deal about White Tiger accidentally killing a guy, and you were willing to, like, kill White Tiger, but Punisher, we gotta keep alive, even though
he's their hero.
I know, but, like, come on. At a certain point, after he guts the 5th police officer...
Plus, you can't get rid of Punisher because he's got another one-shot series coming out, so...
I don't know. So, like, the final episode, I like where it leads to. Yeah. You have Daredevil going, fuck the system, we're going full hero. And then you have Fisk going, fuck the system, I'm going full mafia, mob boss. What do you think of the twist of, one, Foggy was killed for a reason, and 2, it was Vanessa? Like, what was your thoughts on that?
I mean, I was fine with it. It kind of, like, I kind of felt that there was... Like, somebody knew, like, whether it was Fisk was just doing a really good job of lying, or, you know, as far as the assassination at the very beginning of the series. I was like, somebody in there knew. And I thought, like, okay, if it's not Fisk, it's got to be either Vanessa or Fisk's right-hand man.
The Buck.
You know, it's got to be him. Mm-hmm. Like, it's got to be one of those. Somebody knew something, just couldn't figure it out. And I thought maybe D'Onofrio's just that good of an actor that he's just not letting on that he did it. It was a twist, but it wasn't that much of a twist. But again, it was like one of those things that's like, I didn't really buy that whole setup to a degree, because, like, Vanessa comes and she frees him and then she sets him up and, you know, like, oh, go do this. And then she doesn't help him afterwards. No. Because obviously he's in prison. And then his idea is like, I'm going to kill Fisk. Like, why was he not putting a bullet in her head?
Well, to be fair,
Fisk did bad by him for sure, 100%. In the first, you know, absolutely. But why would his, like, okay, this last trip to jail was because of you, and by the way, I got thrown off a rooftop, and a whole bunch of stuff, and you're dancing around. Like, I would have thought, like, maybe the first bullet at least would have been at her, and that's what I honestly thought he was there to do. Yeah, and then he ended up taking the shot at Fisk, and it was like, okay, like, yeah, he's but reason to hate him, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, recency bias? Like, this one did you wrong more recently.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's a good point.
I thought maybe that was the purpose of the dress, was that she was...
a red target.
Yeah, she was that target.
Or blood on her hands and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of all over the place. Talk to me. Okay, you watched the whole season. Where we end up? What was good that you enjoyed about this? What are you looking forward to season 2?
I did think that for a large portion of it, mostly during the violent parts, they kept the tone the same as the Netflix series. Like, some of the Punisher scenes were just
bloody,
so bloody. So I mean, that was good. I thought they did, other than the way he went out. I thought Muse was really, really, like, the creepy factor of building him up was really, really cool. I thought they did a good job. His look was amazing. He looked great. You know, the D'Onofrio, I think, and again, not because Charlie Cox didn't do a good job. I just thought D'Onofrio's story as Kingpin was more interesting and better sculpted and written than what was going on with Matt. But I liked them both, but Kingpin was obviously better. And I just liked the fact that by the time we got to the end, I was like, you saw the Punisher's back, and Karen Page is back, and Kingpin is Kingpin, and and like it's okay now now we're rolling downhill. Like, this is gonna get crazy. Come next year.
Yeah, exactly. That I agree. Like, I think this season 1 of Born Again was a little bit messy.
Yeah.
You could tell that they were balancing the old show of what they originally shot with what they want to turn it into. I think, I agree. By the end of the show, you could tell them they're starting to get their feet underneath them and going in the right direction. And I'm super excited for season 2.
Yeah.
What's your hopes and dreams for season 2?
Well, my hopes and dreams were like in the last episode, I was really thinking there would have been some cameos.
Yeah, me too.
Right, like as he makes the announcement and like the city's on lockdown from vigilantes now, was like, just even if they're not going to be in the next season, you could have just shown a scene of Spider-Man kind of watching him on TV downtown or something, like just seeing some stuff that would have just given you that connection to the rest of the universe, and any of the characters that you really felt had a really good shot of being in next season, like Luke Cage, sorry, Danny and Jessica Jones. Like at least those three, because you already have the Punisher. At least you would have seen some cameos of them, like so that you got a feel for it. But it's just like it really kind of, for me, it was like, okay, I can kind of see where they're going, but it kind of landed flat in that regard, because I was really thinking like, hey, you're gonna spice it up at the end. Because
I mean, the benefit of him being in the MCU is supposed to be that interconnectivity, and I think that was one downsides of the season was it felt like there was like almost no interconnectivity with the MCU. No. The only thing you didn't even get Miss Marvel, you just got Miss Marvel's dad. Like it was really weird to me that they didn't try more to connect it. So I'm hoping for season 2. I want Spider-Man.
And the after credits scene was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be guarding the Punisher, and you shake his hand. You're an idiot. Like, what?
But it's his idol.
I know, but like, you're a fucking moron. Like, what are you doing?
It was like I was expecting, again, just something like when they were going by the cages and stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe this is where we'll see
Luke Cage.
Or something.
Yeah. No. Like who would I want? I want like, you have to have Spider-Man. To be fair, after No Way Home, nobody remembers who he is, but it should be something to do with like, hey, I'm trying to get superheroes and protect each other. Spider-Man's a huge part of that in like the comic books and stuff like that. So it blows my mind. I actually really want Kate Bishop Hawkeye, because her dad again was in the show. He was the swordsman. Yeah. So it's like you have an easy connection.
Who we didn't get to see as the swordsman.
He didn't even get to see as a swordsman. I think it would be fun to get Miss Marvel in there, and again, it could be like the lead into Champions of she meets Daredevil. She has this innocent, I believe in superheroing and justice, and he's like, fuck you, kid. And
but
then
she's an X-Men now.
I guess she's an X-Men now. She's too expensive for Daredevil. I wouldn't mind Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Danny. I'm like, whatever.
I like Jessica Jones. The Iron Fist didn't.
No, it didn't land. And like even in the comics, they're changing Iron Fist into a completely different character.
Yeah.
I think if we're really shooting it, I would love Moon Knight. I know Moon Knight kind of leans more into the mystical stuff, but I think it'd be dope to have
the Moon Knight that they've built in the MCU is so far from the street level character that he started as. But yeah, it would be pretty cool.
It would be pretty funny. And then, like, I'm trying to think of any. Well, I mean, to be fair, Thunderbolts. Like, there's a lot of Thunderbolt characters. I think you should bring back She-Hulk. I think she was robbed of like how good of an actress she is, and like she deserves better in my opinion. But to have her and Karen Page be in the same room together would be so funny.
Well, it's the thing is, like, they never there were aspects of that of this that they haven't explored. Like one of the most traumatic points in Daredevil's life is when Karen Page is killed.
Yep.
And that's like doing a Spider-Man movie where Gwen Stacy doesn't die.
Yeah.
Or you kill Mary Jane instead of like
fundamental
aspect of the character you didn't even explore. Like, who knows? Maybe in this next half, maybe that'll happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, it's curious. Like, there's lots of points that I look at and I go like, I wish they would have incorporated, that aspect or this aspect, but overall, like, I can't say I didn't like it, even the bank episode, I was like, it's kind of cheesy, but I'm okay with that. I guess I still enjoyed it.
That's what you expect out of the MCU Daredevil, right? So that's characters that we're excited for. What about storylines? Where do you see this going with Kingpin going full Kingpin and all that
I
stuff?
think it's essentially just going to be Devil's Reign.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think there's going to be anything else in there, because they haven't alluded to it, so
well, again,
I don't see it.
The one thing that they could potentially build up to with the incorporation of Thunderbolts is Dark Reign all together, right? Like, if you have Bullseye becomes evil Hawkeye, and you have, like, all the villains, Kingpin is the mayor of New York, so he has this, like, evil cabal of villains turning into a task force. I think that's what they should, again, the dream of that for me would be that, like, let's start getting more superpowers involved. Let's start getting more superpowers involved.
The only reason I don't see that happening is because of what they did with Civil War.
Yeah, it was so low key.
Yeah, like, and that's why, like, this task force was like, oh, it's just a bunch of, like, bad cops.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that's not the task force he had.
No.
I outside of them battling him, I just don't see where any other storyline would get, like, that I can think of that would be mixed in there. I think it's just going to be possibly 9 episodes of them beating the crap out of each other.
So, and you can maybe explore, like, what if a superhero accidentally kills somebody? Again, you have that, like, conversation you bring up of, like, who's responsible for that, especially if Daredevil's the one leading the charge. Like, what's his opinion on that? But yeah, I think they have potential where they can go. Random thought I just had. Could you do a season of Daredevil without Kingpin? Like, because, like, they tried in season 2 where he was a background character.
Yeah, they could, because there's other, which they've never explored. Like, it's just like, okay, Kingpin's this larger than life, almost semi-superhero, like, super villain kind of guy that can crush people's heads with his bare hands. He's that, but they haven't explored, like, well, what about the Owl?
Yep.
Or, some of the other mob type bosses. They could easily do Hammerhead.
Oh, yeah.
They could easily do Silvermane. There's a lot of other... And that's what I was kind of expecting to some degree, was like, okay, well, Kingpin's being mayor, so what's, that's basically what happened in any time the Kingpin's kind of wandered off a little bit, is the other mob bosses have all started fighting over trying to become basically the next Kingpin, and I was thinking there was going to be more elements of that, maybe not necessarily the super villains, but just more of an element of those
street level,
that street level crime, like people trying to take his place, and you didn't see that.
Again, maybe that's what starts happening.
Because Vanessa's just really good at her job.
She's that good, man. Selling art is the exact same as.
Oh, exactly. Killing people in art.
And maybe that's another element they add to season 2 is, like, you have Daredevil really focused on Kingpin, but then Kingpin's also dealing with the crime syndicates coming forward, and gang war happens or something like that. So, yeah.
I mean, okay, so that's about the only thing is if there was another element that they put in there, maybe gang war.
Yep.
Some kind of gang war, but hopefully it's not the most recent gang war.
No, which was really funny. How maybe this is just a New York thing. I thought it was so funny that, like, the power goes out and then immediate riots. I was just to be fair, the police were stoking it, but it was just like, wow, immediate riots?
That's why they always have lights on, because if they don't... People just go crazy. They just go nuts.
Yeah. Which I thought was a little bit extreme, but anyway. So yeah, that's any.
Like, they've never had a power outage.
Yeah,
it happens every time the lights go out.
Just like, riot.
Oh my god.
Any final thoughts on Born Again season 1?
No, I mean, ultimately, still think it's probably right up there with the best TV series like Disney's done.
Yeah.
Was it equivalent to the Netflix? No. If you want to see some real hardcore good Daredevil stuff, go watch the Netflix stuff. Before you watch that one, there's still good elements of it, but not as good.
How do you rank it compared to season 3? Do you think it was better than season 3 Netflix?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
It was it's the bottom of the 4.
Yeah.
But it's not that bad. It's actually
no, and I think ultimately the reason why is because it got it like not as bad as a lot of other stuff, but it still got Disney vibe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or Feige-fied.
Well, I mean, or there was that era of Disney that wasn't Bob Iger, it was the other Bob. I can't remember his name. And you could tell, like, there's just a mess. Like, that whole era of Disney, post-Endgame, before Deadpool Wolverine, is just such a mess.
Yeah, like I said, and it could have been, I mean, obviously, compared to some of the other stuff that they put out. It could have been so much worse. Mm-hmm. But for the large part, like knowing that there was some issues, yes, is it a little bumpy here and there?
Yep.
Sure. But for the most part, I still very much enjoyed the series.
Which is very reminiscent of Captain America Brave New World when we talked about that. So it's interesting. So what's your final closing it off? Like, do you think now that Marvel's starting to get back their footing and they're starting to go in the right direction, or are you still waiting to see what happens with like Thunderbolts and
No, I need to see it.
Okay.
Because they've screwed up so badly over the last like 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I need to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Daredevil Born Again. A good show, maybe not the best as it could have been, but still worth watching. I think it's the big part, and we're really excited for season 2. I think it has a lot of potential for season 2. Yep. But that'll close us out for this episode. Make sure to like and follow us wherever you found us, and we usually release an episode once a month. Next month, potentially, we're doing a Thunderbolts episode. We'll see how we feel.
Yeah, Thunderbolts.
If it's worth an episode, we'll see how it goes, and we'll go from that.
Either way, because I could always complain for an hour.
Oh yeah, for sure. our typical go from there. But yeah, I hope you have a good time in Calgary, and you gotta let me know if you talk to Charlie Cox, and we'll see what he says. Yeah, bye.